Stephen Butler was the FBI unit chief for the San Diego field office since 1998, but back in 1994, he was beginning to make his bones, as they say. A recent bombing in Orange County led to some think it was deliberate. Orange County is quite diverse, home to many Orthodox Catholics, and also a very populous area for Arabs due to the nature of the weather. Butler was a flatfoot, someone who enjoyed hitting the streets and investigating crimes the old fashioned way. It is how he came across paths with a no Muslim who was quite affable in the region. Butler, in time, became quite fond of the good natured man, known to many in the Orange County area in the city, Lemon Grove. Butler then asked him to become an asset for the Bureau, someone the Bureau can rely on for information about certain individuals who are on the FBI's radar in San Diego. The man agreed, and on May 14, 1994, the FBI opened him as an asset, codename Stan. According to an FBI Inspector General review of the FBI's handling of information relating to the 9/11 attacks, Stan provided menial information at first. Quote, he normally was questioned about specific individuals who were under investigation by the FBI, although he occasionally volunteered information that he thought might be relevant. End quote. In the spring of 1996, Stan began renting out rooms in his 5-bedroom home. Shaikh would tell his handler, Stephen Butler, who became now quite fond of him, that he was a retired English professor at San Diego State University and also vice president for the international projects at American Commonwealth University, ACU. One late evening, Stan would tell Butler that he was born in India in 1954, became a naturalized citizen of the United States in 76. Butler's talks with his asset would become quite sporadic over the months, which led to years. Stan would frequent the Islamic Center of San Diego and become a staple there since his arrival in Lemon Grove, but provided information to Butler about certain people who were overstaying their U.S. visas. Nothing about Stan stood out and was always known to be a reserved man with principles. One April afternoon in the year of 2000, Stan posted an announcement letter on the Islamic Center bulletin board. The letter was written in English and explained that rooms were available in Lemon Grove. It provided an address and phone number. It also had a short request that whoever wished to rent these rooms were to be observant Muslims. Over the next few days, Stan visited the secretary's office at the mosque, and after some small talk, the secretary then pointed behind the sheikh and said there were two men who wished to speak with him. The two men were later known to be Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. Al-Mihdhar spoke no English at all, al-Hazmi very little. Both men spoke Arabic to Stan, who gave his actual name to both al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi. They explained to him that they needed a place to stay, very badly. Al-Hazmi explained that they were living in an apartment which was close to the Islamic Center, but they had to leave the premises because the owner of the home was leaving Saudi Arabia. His name would be Fahad al-Tamari. The apartment was rented by a Saudi on Mount Ada Avenue and was known to Stan. He felt compassion for both of the seemingly lonely Saudis in a large unknown land like the United States. Stan knew they wouldn't be welcomed by most, and he agreed to rent a room to both men. Al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi moved in on May 10th of 2000. By this time, nobody knew about Stan renting rooms to two unknown Saudis. Stan never told Butler about these two men. He also told both men he was also an English professor at San Diego State and that advised both of them to take courses in English. But sometimes he would find al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi in the middle of a day, lounging in the home and not at English classes. Stan would ask why they weren't at school. Al-Hazmi would respond that the class was not good, that they wouldn't attend anymore. Both of the men were mostly secretive and were always together, and never around others except Stan. Al-Mihdhar would tell Stan about their wish to take flight training nearby, for which Stan would reply that they would need to take English courses since it is rather important that if they wanted to become pilots, they had to know English. Both men were very pious Muslims, according to Stan. One example of their modesty was when they were watching television, a scantily clad cheerleader came on screen. Al-Mihdhar asked Stan to turn it off. The three men would practice Salah, which are the Islamic dawn prayers. One day, another Saudi came to visit Stan. His name was Omar al-Bayoumi. Both men would become good friends, which started at the Islamic Center in San Diego, where they first met. Al-Bayoumi would greet al-Hazmi, who he saw mingling in Stan's home, and stated that it was he who referred al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi to see Stan about renting out rooms to them both. When al-Bayoumi left, Nawaf al-Hazmi would explain to Stan that he didn't like al-Bayoumi and thought he was a Saudi agent of sorts, exclaiming that al-Bayoumi would always carry around a video recorder, taking pictures and video. Meanwhile, reports were later taken from neighbors who lived nearby, where al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi lived, and stated that both men would frequent visitors in the late evenings. It would also later be found out by the FBI that the two visits would see Muhammad Atta and Hani Anjur enter the home of Stan. On July 12, 2000, 2 days before the visa expires, an I-539 application to extend 9/11 hijacker Nawaf al-Hazmi's stay is filed with the California Service Center of the INS. The I-539 form is not received by the California Service Center until July 27, 2000, and officially it is considered a late filing. Meanwhile, Stephen Butler would visit his contact in June. Stan explained to Butler that he had two men living with him. Butler inquired who they were, and Stan explained that there were two Saudis who just arrived inside the United States in January. Butler asked for their names, but Stan only provided their first names, Khalid and Nawaf, not their surnames. Shaikh tells Butler that al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar are good religious Muslims who are legally inside the United States to visit and attend school. Butler asks the Shaikh for their last names, but Stan refuses to provide them. Butler is not told that they are pursuing flight training. However, Stan would also relate to Butler that al-Hazmi had contact with at least 4 individuals he knew were of interest to the FBI and about whom he had previously reported to the FBI. Butler was extremely interested now in Khalid and Nawaf and repeatedly asked his asset what their last names were so he could run a check in the database. Stan would tell Butler that he should come back again soon. This way he could give him this information. Shortly after this, al-Mihdhar would fly to Germany, leaving al-Hazmi alone with Stan. However, al-Hazmi would abruptly leave the home of Stan and find a place in La Mesa, California. He would also begin employment, finding a job at Stan's Star Mart, servicing cars. Thus, the story would seemingly end with both men out of the home of Stan and Butler never obtaining the last names of Khalid and Nawaf. September 11, 2001. After the attacks, the FBI's pent bomb investigation into the hijackers led back to Butler's asset, Stan. He was debriefed about the two men, now known as hijackers, for American Airlines Flight 77, which crashed into the Pentagon. Stan told the FBI everything he knew about the men, and it was then that they saw Stan as someone who knew nothing about the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Butler would retire Stan as an asset in 2002. But as the smoke cleared, the mysterious asset with Stephen Butler had more mystery to him. San Diego State later exclaimed that this man was never at any point employed as an English professor, nor was he a vice president for international projects at American Commonwealth University. He was nothing more than a diploma mill, which was owned by a retired Air Force general named William Lyon. Shortly after the termination of Stan by the FBI as an informant, his name would become publicly known. His name was Abdussattar Shaikh. Nothing more would become known to the public about him, and he remains retired and still living in Lemon Grove, California. Later, the Joint House Inquiry into Intelligence Community Activities before and after the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001 report described the informant as, quote, the intelligence community's best chance to unravel the September 11th plot, end quote. After September 11, much would be learned about al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar's time in San Diego and the intelligence community's missed opportunities to find and investigate them before the terrorist attacks in which they participated. When interviewed by the FBI after the attacks, Agent Butler revealed Stan had told him that 2 Saudi national visitors were residing in his home at his residence, but their last names were never revealed to me. The asset did not describe his boarders as suspicious or otherwise worthy of further scrutiny. Butler reported that he never obtained al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar's full identities from the asset and that they did not conduct any investigation into them. He also contends that how he was supposed to do a proper investigation when the CIA also withheld pertinent information from the FBI about Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi's dual U.S. visas and also about being inside the country as well. Quote, most FBI agents in the field did not have direct access to the shared intelligence community database that did contain some of the information on al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar, such as the NSA information, end quote. The mystery regarding why the CIA and why the FBI informants regarding al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar were never revealed to their handlers will always pose more questions than answers.